Okay.
These two pictures in our truck are collector's items. They're from the old San Onofre surf restaurant, which used to be just opposite as you go out the road here. And that's before the freeway was put in.
Highway 101.
Yeah, it's Highway 101, Pacific Coast Highway. This top picture here shows 26 surfers at San Onofre in 1935. All of the boards had no skegs. They had little 1-inch pieces of wood as a skeg. And this is how they used to hold their contest in 1935. Right here, you'd see how many guys could catch a wave. And they wouldn't be cutting back and forth so much, they'd just be going straight. This picture down here was taken by a woman life photographer. And she had a very high-speed graphics. And there's some very famous people here. This is James Arnez that played on Gunsmoke. Blackburn, one of our leaders. This is Don Smith, the guy that originally did the decal for San Onofre. And this is Lauren Harrison. This is our first president, Barney Wilkes. This is Dick Jekyll, a very famous actor in Hollywood. He did many, many movies. This is Bob Hogan, the guy that was the first to inaugurate the paddling from Catalina Island to Manhattan Beach in the early 50s. And the picture is a collector's item because if you move over here, this is Bob Cardo, one of our good old guys. And he had just done something and he covered his face. Now if you look carefully here, you'll see a little glass of wine that's in midair. You see it? He had just, the smoke evidently hit his eye and he threw the thing and covered his eyes. And that's a collector's item. Now these pictures were on the wall of the San Onofre Cafe, and Benny Merrill, who had a moving company in San Clemente, bargained for no charge on moving the people out of that San Clemente Cafe if he would give them all the pictures. So we were lucky enough to get 2 of them. So that's the story of these pictures.
Thank you much, Jim Irwin. Really appreciate that.
Isn't that fun? There's more history here than you can bat an eyelash at. It's fantastic.
I was telling Liz that I think I would call you guys king and queen of San Onofre.
She's the queen. Look at that. She's got a new suit
She told a neat story of how she met, how you guys met.
Oh, did she? Oh,
Yeah.
out on the low tide.
How'd that feel when you cut your foot?
Yep, yeah. In the shape of an L for Liz.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Love at first sight. Marvelous lady.
Well, it's so awesome to see you guys
Well,
through so many years.
it's a collector's item. You were a little kid when you came here, and you learned to surf as a little boy. Did your mom and dad bring you here?
My mommy did.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, and I'm
so you
so
learned-
grateful.
Now, when was that? What year would that be?
Oh, doing the math, 22 years ago.
22 years ago.
Yeah,
That's wonderful.
yeah,
Yeah. I started in
Sure.
1949 down here.
that is awesome.
And the first time I ever met anybody here was in March. It was pouring rain, and I pulled onto the beach. There was only one other car, and it was a great big van that said Chin Lee's Chop Suey on the side of it. And there was a guy called Joe Sokolovich. This is before hippies. He had long hair, he had a beard, one of the nicest guys in the world, 6'2", you know. And he was standing out there, pouring rain. I walked up and introduced myself, and I said, "What do you guys do down here for fun?" He says, "Well, we usually think of things to do." So he says, "Why don't we have a contest?" And I said, "What do you mean a contest?" And he said, "Why don't we see who could build the best windmill?" I said, "Okay, how do we do this?" He says, "Well, you go to my truck and we'll each get one tool." He got a pair of tin snips and he walked south and he found some cans and he cut these little propellers and nailed them onto the pieces of wood, and he had these little spinning propellers. And I went north and I found some 2x4s, and I had a hammer, so I pulled the nails out of the shack, and I spied a garden glove on the sand, and I filled it with sand, and I tied it onto a beer can with seaweed and raised the middle finger. And we made the first finger mill. That was in 1949. And each year we would be putting up more fantastic finger mills that would move and do things. And it got so involved and so expensive that we finally had to discontinue it for a while.
Hence your name,
And-
finger mill. And I've
Yeah.
noticed now it's much more politically correct. The finger
When the
gesture.
state took over, you couldn't use the middle finger, so we used the index finger.
Uh-huh.
And then the most recent one was the Hawaiian Shaka Bra. which
Right
we
on.
did. Yeah, isn't that fun?
That is awesome.
It's a great story, isn't it?
It is. Thank
Yep.
you so much, Jim Irwin.
Oh, too nice to do that. That doesn't really record.
And isn't that cool that you're still surfing after all these years? How old are you?
In 83
83.
on a clear day. Yes.
And no wax on your
no
board.
wax, no leashes. Man, are you kidding? People shouldn't use wax. You get poisoned. Isn't that fun?
Thank you very much.
Okay.